Get through this afternoon. So we are still in public and we're on to item 15, DCL quarterly status update, who will also be reporting in PX a little bit later. So, welcome.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been asked to just keep this, to help you keep it moving, so I'll take the paper as read and happy to take questions.
Yep, so any questions, team? When are the hot pools going to be open?
Yeah, Hepona Taimoana is the name, and they are still looking to be open in March. We did have difficulty in the quarter with drilling the boreholes and had the drilling rig stuck at about 40 metres with the intention of it going down to 120. It stayed stuck for a couple of weeks before we were able to free it. That has now been resecured. We now have 2 rigs operating on site, and we've been able to break through the ground of the first bore, so that's for your abstraction and your injection, so that's all back on track and going well. We have a day planned next week to take Pierre and Foreshore and some of the community board out for a tour around. The aerial drone shots of the facility, it looks much bigger than perhaps it does when you look at the plans of these things. We also had it was the closure date yesterday on the RFDP for the cafe operator. So they have been assessed. I know council staff are recruiting the staff to operate the pool. It'll be at 13, and that process is well underway. So they're looking really good, and that whole foreshore development is looking great. And with marine parade works coming on, commencing soon, and the work on the clock in front of the library, things are progressing nicely.
Thank you. Dion?
2 questions. First one is the master plan regeneration stuff. So you've got nothing more that you're doing in Linwood Village?
No, we've not. We provided some advice, a paper called Interventions and Incentives to Attract Private Sector Investment to Linwood, Woolston and Littleton, which we completed in April of last year, which went to staff. Which joined the implementation of Christchurch City Council Suburban Master Plans report, which we provided prior to that. So that's back with council staff. So our only focus with respect to suburban master plans is New Brighton and then supporting the Central City Action Plan work. We've undertaken some work in Bishopdale, which is not a suburban master plan, and we did some design workshops with the community and businesses there and have helped facilitate some investment. And the good news there is the former Mitre 10 building owned by the Smiths has changed hands, and there is the intention for a health hub to go in there. And there are notices up on that building now advertising that at the moment.
So do you think what we're doing in Linwood Village area specifically is working, or could we ramp up something from your point of view?
I don't think there's anything really happening, particularly in Linwood Village.
Could you ramp up something in that? Do you see potential to ramp it up, or is it
so?
Just
if you're talking about Stanmore Road, I think that would need to be a focused bit of work. But like all these things, they need a level of investment. I don't think that's been set aside other than the roading cycleway works in the annual plan or in the LTP. When you're dealing with privately owned businesses there, and I think there's some that are still to close. It's how you attract them there to that community, and that's the wider piece of work that would need to be done. And
just on point 4 that you've got in your paper, the investor attraction. You've got that something's in public excluded, but is there anything publicly we can say or that you could say in this space? Because I'm a little bit worried about where things are going, and I just...
Yep, so look, what I'll say is, the nature of it is typically, commercially sensitive. A number of the parties we deal with, we're under non-disclosure agreements with. They typically occur around property transactions and aiding the partnering of investors to opportunities and help selling the city, and that we also do closely with Christchurch NZ in that space. So some of it may or may not happen anyway. Some of it may happen but not in Christchurch. So I think we've had a reasonable amount of success, and some of that's listed in the PX component of the paper. And we equally have a wide range of contacts and connections of parties that have capability to operate in the city given the right opportunities.
So, I mean, it sounds like, and I've read the other bit, but there's a lot of good stuff as well as challenges. But I just think in your reports that we do publicly, I just feel as though that we could be talking about the opportunities a little bit more, because people do read these things.
Yeah, I've got to be careful what we say with some of this.
Yeah, but a holistic
Yep.
level stuff.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay,
I was wanting.
thank you.
Glenn?
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Is there an outside chance those hot water pools could be completed early and...
Unlikely given the difficulties of the last few months.
Right, okay. And just on Marine Parade there, who would be the lead?
Council transport team.
Council Transport, okay. No, that's all good.
Yep.
So that's going to commence pretty soon?
Yep, I think they've appointed the lead contractor for that works and was due to commence towards the end of this month.
Right. So go to Lynette or Richard for any queries there?
Yes.
Yep, great. Thanks.
Yep. And look, we've had input into the design because we were conscious of it not being treated purely as a roading project. That the key to it is an urban regeneration project that connects the foreshore back through the commercial core. Yep.
Pauline?
On 2.2, on page 143, the Peterborough project, are you able to tell us any parameters that you've put around the request for proposal there? Did you put any height limitations or anything in there? Yeah.
Maybe we could pick that up in PX,
Okay.
but there were no height limitations, but I don't think there's anything to be concerned about.
Thank you.
Phil?
Thanks, Rob. And the report on the Adventure Park is pleasing, and particularly with reducing the family day pass, and no doubt that's contributed to the increase in the percentages. So,
Not yet, it hasn't, because that's just coming out. So these improvement figures have occurred prior to that. So that will hopefully escalate that even further.
Thanks, Rob. And I was just going to ask about so those percentage increases on the bike, number of bikes and uplifts. Is that for this last year compared with the previous year, or I'm just wondering where
That's year on year increase.
year on, and it's the annual increase over this last year. So,
And we could couple that with we've also stripped some of the operating costs out of the business as well.
So if that like there's reference, if that continue, will that sort of that increase in terms of the trend, will that how much will that in itself strengthen the Adventure Park financially?
So at the moment, it's on a trajectory to wash its face this year, maybe a bit better. Summer will be critical. That's when the big passes, the big activity will occur. So look, overall, the business is in good shape. It is doing well. The changes that we've made since the time of the capital restructure have been have been really, really positive. There's a complete change to the board. The board has been reduced in size. It's now only 5 people, of which 3 are DCL appointees, including the executive chairman, and we have an executive chairman role, so somebody more hands-on in the business at that governance level. And they are responding well to the letter of expectation we issued them with respect to what we were expecting them in terms of performance.
Okay. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Jimmy? Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Yanni?
Thanks. Thank you. Sorry if you may have answered this already, but looking at the ticketing pricing for the Adventure Park, even though the family pass is going to reduce, it's still quite expensive. Mm-hmm. And I know when the Adventure Park was initially being set up, we were sort of given assurances that groups that might not otherwise have access due to equity issues would have an ability to access it. Is there anything going on looking at creating greater user experiences of the Adventure Park in areas that may not be able to afford it?
Yeah, there are. So pricing's constantly being reviewed. That I think, in my opinion, the lift passes pricing is probably about right and comparable. Rental of equipment is, I think, particularly high, and that's where it becomes challenging, and that was the nature of the type of equipment they purchased, and that could have been done differently. That's been re-looked at. In terms of the offering, the access to the park is free. You're just paying for the lift and hire of equipment, so people can use. Some enterprising teenagers get a lift up to the top and they just ride down the park for free. So that's happening now. There are walking tracks in there that can be accessed free. They're looking at policy for people to dog walk in there, which wasn't the case in the past. More picnic areas down the bottom and other more family-friendly activities to widen and broaden the base of customers going into the park. So that is very much the strategy that has just been rewritten, and there's going to be a whole new branding of the park come out soon as well.
But I guess I was more interested in things like working with schools in the lower socioeconomic areas to get access. Are you doing anything with schools?
Yeah, the park has engaged with schools in the area to date. I can't give you the detail on that anymore, but I know
just
they have done.
Final question on the adventure park. Is there any opportunity that we could put in the rates demand, have a free family pass so that people who haven't experienced it, can experience it once per year? Or
look, I'm happy to feed that back to the board, but we're talking about the challenge is the timings of these things because the people who are paying customers. If you inundate the park with lots and lots of people on certain days, it detracts the experience. And again, we're conscious of this is an operating business that needs to, recover its costs of running.
Right. Okay. Any other questions, Aaron?
Yeah, so mine's just on the adventure park as well, because I think one of the most exciting parts of it's not talked about very often, which is New Zealand's highest and New Zealand's longest zip lines. They're obviously a big attraction that most people don't know are there. It's up by 18%. Is that up 18% on not many, or is it up 18% on a lot? And what are the numbers tracking like? And I remember Raf saying at one time, once the cruise ship terminal opens, there should be, or maybe not for the really old people, but for a lot of people on cruise ships, they might want to get over and try New Zealand's highest zip line.
Yeah, they are looking at the zip line product from a number of...
Phil's just advising me that older people are into zip lines as well.
Yeah, I know my chairman took his father up there for his 85th birthday and took him to throw him down it. The product is, they are looking at options to reconfigure that product in a slightly different way. The turnover and the speed in which you can spit people down it is not as quick as it perhaps could be.
Right, okay.
So when you're dealing with lots and lots of people that come off a bus from a tourist bus, there probably needs to be some reconfiguring. So the board and management of the park are well aware of that and are looking at some exciting options. And we're very fortunate that Christchurch houses probably the world leaders in zipline technology and homes solutions out at Addington.
Yep.
And they've been up there and have provided some advice. And all their clients outside of this product, they've got one other lower down in the South Island, or the rest of their customers are North American based. So we really do have some world-leading technology sitting here in Christchurch, which are aiding the park at the moment. With some
good
products.
to see more growth in that field. I think it's exciting for us to have that in our city.
And I think it'll take a bit of time to expand that operation to be a true adventure park, and to perhaps just refocus away. You want to look after your customers around downhill mountain biking, but to open it and broaden it is a bigger offering. Yep.
Okay, that's all, and thanks very much. We'll have you back shortly. So I have a resolution to note the quarterly status update. Moved Dave, seconded Aaron. Any discussion? Put the motion. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against, that's carried. Thank you.